On this story, what do we know?
Well, of course, it's all exacerbated in the backdrop of this trade war and escalating rhetoric there between China and the United States. But there's been these somewhat veiled but not so veiled threats as well from the Chinese that there are black hands, so to speak, stirring up trouble here in Hong Kong. One official even mentioned Mike Pompeo by name, so basically naming the United States and also even naming Taiwan as possible agents in stirring up the trouble here in Hong Kong. Of course, the U.S. State Department has disregarded these as kind of, far-fetched allegations. However, the latest situation is the U.S. State Department spokeswoman, Morgan Ortagus, is basically saying, based on reports in a Communist Party-leaning newspaper that suggested the political officer in the U.S. Consul General here in Hong Kong met with Joshua Wong and other protest leaders. And again, that newspaper was doing an investigative report saying this is proof again that the United States is stirring up trouble. Well, Morgan Ortagus at the U.S. State Department briefing said, I don't think that leaking the American diplomats' private information, pictures, names of their children, I don't think that's a formal protest. That is what a thuggish regime would do. That's not how a reasonable nation would behave. And asked directly whether she was calling China a thuggish regime, she said yes. So basically, this is just more, rhetoric, but it's getting escalated because it's now 10 weeks of violence here in Hong Kong. The trade war has no end in sight, and both sides are kind of lashing out.
The economic fallout is another angle, of course, we've been trying to flesh out in recent weeks. We've heard from the government. We've heard from several other companies. What's the latest on this? Yeah,
we're seeing from companies that are retailers, hotels, and airlines. Guess what company that describes to a T? Swire Pacific. Right. They're in retail, they're in hotels, they're in airlines, and their net income fell 41% to $1 billion in the first half. This is one of the biggest drops in quite some time. We're seeing, well, from Swire Properties, this is what they said: global trade uncertainties and the adverse effect of yuan weakness as well on spending by tourists from mainland China have affected retail spending in Hong Kong. Protests have had some effect on retail sales in the malls, particularly at Pacific Place. You're seeing footage here. I want to skip as well to Wharf. First half core profit was down as well. And this is a very telling statement because they say the full year outlook is uncertain. And here's the quote. This really sums up what's happening to Hong Kong blue chips. Weak demand has been further weakened by travel advisories, economic slowdown, contracting exports, re-exports, falling retail sales, stock market jitters, and the threat to employment. Calling it a roller coaster, Sino-U.S. conflict has profound impact on both economies as well as Hong Kong's. A lot of headwinds.